From the Country Music Highway, it's CMH 23.
Hello everyone, I'm Keith Casebolt. Welcome into the Highway 23 television studios. Today we're going to be talking about Highway 23 radio. Please make welcome my old dear friend.
Old is right.
Ron Rock and Roll Smith, who I met approximately 40 years ago, I think. No, actually, it's over 40.
It's over 40. 1982, I think, was when we met.
82 or 83, yeah.
Right.
So 42 or 43 years. And Ron...
and we still don't like each other.
Yeah. Now, well, when I met you, you were Ron Rock and Roll Smith. Now you're Ron Country and Roll
Country
Smith.
and Roll, definitely.
Because Ron is the morning man on Highway 23 radio. You can hear him on 94.3, 50,000 watts up and down the Country Music Highway. And by the time you're hearing this, we'll also be on WMOR 106.1, 25,000 watts, going up and down through Moorhead toward Lexington. And 94.3 is WIFX, a Gearhart station that's part of our network, that you're holding down the morning show. And he's got his WSIP jacket on because for 20 plus years?
30.
30 plus years, you were the morning man at WSIP 98.9 in Paintsville, the home of Chris Stapleton.
Right.
And ended up retiring from there. So music has been in your blood since I've known you.
I started in radio when I was 15 years old because music is my life. I love music of all kinds, be it rock and roll. At the time, that was what I was doing. But I'm a biggest country fan you'll probably ever find.
Yeah, so in 83 or 82, whenever it was, I'm a young teenager and you're the program director.
True.
And I get a job and I get to meet this guy and I listen to you all the time on the radio. I couldn't wait to meet you. And I remember walking into the studio and you came out, still to this day, you had on bibbed overalls. And at the time you were smoking a backwoods cigar.
Right.
Back then you could smoke in the station. And I said, hey, I'm here to see Ron Smith. And you said, I'm Ron Smith. And I went, I thought you'd be taller.
Well, one glance is all you need to know why I'm in radio instead of TV.
Yeah, so that's how we hit it off. This guy taught me all the great things you needed to know back in radio. How to set the news feed on fire when somebody's
reading the news. Yeah, that's always a good one.
Yeah, all the things that we did early on, and I think, and it's so, it's funny how Ron things circle around, because when I came to the station and you were the program director, at the time we were ordered to play Marlo Tackett's song at the top of the hour, every hour. I Spent the Heart and the Night of Texas. I mean, I still know that song because if you did a 8-hour shift, you had to play it at least 8 times a day because Marlo Tackett had just signed a contract. Do you remember that?
RCA.
RCA.
Yeah.
And he had backing, I think, from the Canadas who were in the coal business.
Right.
And he was out on tour, and this was the song that Marlo was trying to break to get into the top 40.
Right. I remember the song just as well as you do. We played it quite often, too, to try to help Marlo out. And I think everyone who's spent any time in the Pikeville area over the last 40 years has a Marlo story.
You got a Marlo story?
I got a Marlo story.
I've got to hear the Marlo Tackett story.
This, he had booked David Allen Coe to do a concert at the Palace. And it was a Friday afternoon. And we were going to do some live reports from the show, the station was. So I went down to check things out, the setup and where I would need to be and all that kind of things. And David Allen Coe looked at the stage that Marlo had set up for the Country Palace, and he says, this is not large enough. We need to set up our stuff back here in the back where we have this big long wall. We can set up there and have all of our people on stage at the same time. The other little stage was kind of small. You could only get 3 or 4 people on it. So he starts setting all this up, and doing sound tests and things like that. And Marlo comes in, and he looks at the setup and looks at his stage, and he says, I can't say exactly what he said, but he said, what's going on here? What's the stage in the back for? And David Allen says, well, we have to have a larger stage to accommodate all of our equipment and our personnel. Well, they proceeded to get into a very heated debate about that situation, and David Allen doesn't take any lip from anybody.
Tough guy.
Oh,
Tough guy.
He spent several years in prison, so
He wrote the song Mona Lisa Lost Her Smile, and so did David Allen Coe.
yes. But, so he went out to his bus and came back packing, looking for Marlowe. And thank goodness Marlowe's bodyguards and David Allen's personnel was able to subdue him and probably save Marlowe's life that day.
You know, I had heard that story, and I heard he came back with a Tommy gun.
Well, I don't know exactly what he had. He had it under his coat, and he was packing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
all I know that he was looking for Marlowe very seriously.
You know, Marlowe's Country Palace, I'll get to you and I being there, I think, one night. But one of my favorite stories was when Gary Stewart, you and I were at the station, and our dear friend, Darrell Mullins, who's now since left us, passed away, but Darrell got to interview Gary Stewart.
Right, I remember that.
Oh, and I was so just crazy about Gary Stewart music. You think Bob Dylan liked him? I liked him. And Gary came into the middle studio to do the interview, and he kept sinking down in the chair. And Marlowe would go over and he would try to hold up Gary Stewart, you know, while he was doing the interview. And, you know, I was just crazy about him. And Marlowe told me the story that he refused to go on stage unless Marlowe would get him a white baby grand piano. Well, the only place that you could get one was at the Pied Piper, which was in Huntington, West Virginia.
Right.
And Marlowe sends a truck over and rents a white baby grand piano for Gary Stewart so he will play the shows. Gary comes out on stage, does the show, and never touches the piano. And Marlowe wanted to kill him. But, I mean, here's Gary Stewart from, you know, Jenkins, Kentucky, and Marlowe's Country Palace, the George Jones story. You remember that?
No, I don't think I remember that one.
He didn't show, and Marlowe had the sheriff's department impound the bus and the band, and you know, because he didn't show.
That does bring back some memories, yes.
Hank Williams Jr. was there. And of course, Marlowe had some songs that hit on the record charts and, you know, had an opportunity, but at the time he had Marlowe's Palace and Marlowe's Other Palace. You remember he had two, had two going at one time, and the country music was really a big deal, and so was Marlowe Tackett.
The thing that I think that cut short Marlowe's career is he didn't like the touring.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a country music star, touring is 90% of it. And he didn't like living on the road, and I can't blame him.
For some odd reason, I remember you and I being at Marlowe's one night, and if memory serves me correct, we lost you.
I don't remember any of that.
I think you called the next day, and we were like, "Where'd you end up?" And it was the parking lot of some hotel. But I'm just.
I probably was going to drive home and decided it'd be better for everybody and myself if I didn't.
Okay, so after we grew up and become adults, you're down in Paintsville at WSIP, and a lot of times people think, how can you keep turning out these stars from the country music highway? So you were there, the morning man, all the time through the 1990s. Were you surprised that Chris Stapleton comes out of Johnson Central High School, which is, what, like a mile away from the radio station where you were located, and ends up being the world-famous #1 country male artist?
No, I knew his talent. He hung out at the station a lot during his high school years. He had a couple of his buddies that worked part-time at the station, and he would come over occasionally. And so I don't really rightly know him, but I have talked to him several times during his visits to the station. And I knew the guy had some talent. He would just bring his guitar, and him and his buddies would sit around the station and play music and sing. And I said, man, this guy has got some talent. And obviously, in the future, he has done some great things with that talent.
We did an interview with Darrell Ramey, and when we did the interview, he talked about putting Chris on stage for the first time at the Apple Days Festival.
Right.
And he said, we'd really never heard Chris sing. And he said, as soon as he got on the stage and he opened his mouth and he started singing, everybody was like, holy cow, this guy is different. And the first time you heard a record from Chris Stapleton and you spun it on your morning show, what was your thought process?
It's hard to hide talent.
Yeah.
And I don't think
I've hidden it well for over 40 years.
Chris, I don't think, was a person that really went after the limelight. He was happy just writing songs, but he wrote so many good songs for so many people that the performance kind of came second, and that's where he took off.
You know, when I hear you on the radio along with the other crew, we've got Miss Tia that comes on at 10, and then the great Dennis Walker doing the afternoon show, and Carol in the evenings, and John Casey overnight. And I hear you guys going, oh, here's another song written by Chris Stapleton. Here's another song written by Chris Stapleton. And I was listening to an interview of Chris with Howard Stern, and he was talking about the first song that he wrote that really hit big. And Howard was asking him, weren't you a little upset that you didn't get to sing that and you didn't get to perform it? And this guy was so humble and laid back. He said, Lord, no. He said, that song bought me a house. And he said, because it was recorded, I made some money and I was more than grateful. But it's amazing when you hear the amount of songs that he's written.
All you got to do is look at the music that people come out with these days. And we have another guy in Virgie by the name of Josh Osborne, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But he and Josh have written so many big hits for so many people. Just talent, and that talent is fairly available here in Eastern Kentucky to hear on a daily basis.
I got to tell you quickly, Josh Osborne's mother, Jerry, was the cheerleading sponsor. And back in the day when the old Virgie Eagles were playing and Jerry was on the bus with the cheerleaders, a little blonde-headed Josh would stand up and she would have him sing to the ball players and the cheerleaders on the bus. And I'm like, that little fella is now Josh Osborne, who's the #1 songwriter in Nashville.
Yes.
Amazing.
Talent from Eastern Kentucky just is nonstop. It keeps coming.
Well, so, okay, you're 30 years at 100,000 Watt Country in the home of Chris Stapleton. You retire. I call you up, and I'm like, you can only watch the Bengals so much.
And you can only see them lose too many times.
Yeah, and the Reds, they don't have a whole lot for us to watch. And, hey, we do have hope with, Pope and the Cats, so we do have something to watch. But I said, I need you on this highway radio. And I talked in an interview with Stokes Nielsen, who talked about the national radio chains getting away from content and getting away from programming. And the first thing I told you, I said, this project is about promoting artists, promoting the station, the talent, the music. It's about content. And you said, hey man, sign me up. I'm in, I'm ready to get on.
This was not a mistake by any stretch of the imagination. I am so pleased that I got involved in this. And another guy, friend of mine who is involved in it, Dennis Walker, we've known each other for 30 plus years, and he pretty much feels the same way about it, all the talent in Eastern Kentucky that I do.
What I love is I ride around in the car, and my love of broadcasting is radio. No matter, whatever I do, marketing, television, or whatever, I'm first and foremost, I still think I'm a DJ. I still love radio. But when I'm riding around and I listen to you guys, and you're coming on, I listened to you just yesterday, and you were playing a song by Trace Adkins, and you were coming on going, this song was written by Chris Stapleton, and here it is, Batter, Batter, Swing, and you're telling about Chris from Paintsville, and I'm like, this is what I love. I mean, this is what radio should be about, informative, entertaining, all the things that you and I dreamed of years ago.
All the information that we put into the songs when we were on the air just adds to the music itself and adds a little background to it, that these artists are just humans like we are. They just happen to be blessed with more talent than we are. And they are really making a way for themselves in the country music world.
And Ron, what I really like about this project is back in the day when we were trying to help Marlowe make it into the top 40 by playing his song the top of the hour. This little project we've got right now, we have a television channel on cable. We're going to be streaming the television channel worldwide. We now have radio stations syndicating. We're streaming the signal. You can go to cmh23.com. You can listen to the radio station with Ron Smith. You can watch the TV channel. You can go to the website. We've now put together a situation to where when the next artist walks in here to sit down and do an interview with you, we can help that individual be discovered by the world. That's pretty neat.
That is a real side benefit to what we were doing. I know we're in this business to help promote artists locally, and just to see them take advantage of the opportunities and become what they are today is something to be said for this project.
Brother, I'm glad you're with us. Ron Country and Roll Smith.
Country and Roll Smith now.
You can catch him 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Highway 23 radio, terrestrial, that's 94.3 FM and 106.1 FM. And if you go to the website, you can stream him anywhere in the world. I promise you, he's worth listening to. So good to have you with us.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you for tuning in from the studios, the television studios of Highway 23, talking about our radio channel. I'm Keith Casewell.